Hello, welcome to the Learning Curve. I'm Marjorie Began. If you are a Mansfield resident, you may have seen or heard reference to iCare. iCare stands for Introducing Children to Acceptance Through Reading and Education. Here to talk to us about iCare is the founder and president of the program, Kim Piro. It's good to have you with us, Kim.
Thank you very much for having me.
Give us an idea of how iCare was born.
iCare was born because my daughter Jamie, who at the time was in kindergarten, was put into a class with typically developing children, and I wanted to go in to see how her inclusion was going. And when I went in, it was evident to me that the kids in the class needed some education to learn more about Jamie and her differences. So I asked if it was okay to read a book about autism to the children, a children's book, that I thought maybe could give them a better perspective on Jamie and what her differences and challenges are. And I thought that maybe perhaps that they could better relate to her if I did that. And I did, and it worked wonderfully. So I decided, along with the superintendent of the schools at the time, that it would be a good idea to try to start some kind of a program to read those kinds of books in more than just Jamie's class, but in all of the elementary schools and the preschool.
So the school system was very supportive of what you were doing.
Very supportive, yes. The special ed director at the time, the superintendent of schools, the principals of the schools, everyone was right on board.
So when you started, how old was Jamie?
Jamie was in kindergarten.
Oh, she was in kindergarten. Okay.
Yes.
So did you continue that through the years, each class that she went into?
I did. I went personally into her classroom every year from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade so that I could speak specifically as her parent about her. iCare is a little different than that. It's more generalized to the characters in the book. But I felt it was important for Jamie to have a representative come in and speak to the kids about her personally in case they had specific questions they could ask me.
And I think at one time in talking to you, you mentioned that when you did come into a classroom, let's say first year, second year, and the kids had been with Jamie for a while, that they were excited to tell you, I got her to do this, or I'm doing this with her. Or, you know.
Absolutely. After I read the book in her kindergarten class, and we talked a little bit about Jamie and autism and what that was, the kids were very interested in how they could help her, how they could be a better friend. And when I would then go back into the classroom to volunteer, they couldn't wait to tell me about the different ways that they had interacted with her at recess or got her to spend more time in the class, because in accepting her, they were allowing her to be more herself, and so she felt safer to be in the classroom longer. So they were very excited to tell me the different things that they did to share time with her.
Oh, I think children can be very supportive. If
Absolutely.
they understand, they can be supportive.
Absolutely, and that's one of the main reasons we started iCare. The special needs children are going to be put in these regular ed classrooms, and I thought it was really important that we spend some time educating our typically developing kids about their special need peers so that they can better have them be just a regular part of the classroom. I think that sometimes kids are a little nervous about how to approach or how to relate to a child with special needs. But when you give them the education and you let them know how they can be a better friend or how they can include that child at recess, it's very helpful to them.
So how long did it take to develop iCare after that first kindergarten experience with Jamie?
iCare began when Jamie was in 1st grade. So I read that book myself in her kindergarten class, and then not long after that, I think it was the next spring, was when I introduced the idea to the superintendent of schools, and it was over the course of that spring and summer prior to her first grade, her entering first grade, was when we kind of developed, how is this going to work? What do we need? How is this going to be scheduled? All those kinds of things.
So Jamie is now 23?
22.
22, I believe. So you have, from that time on, you have depended on volunteers.
100%.
So tell us, if someone were interested in volunteering, what would it be like?
A volunteer experience for eye care is getting in touch with me, letting me know you're interested, letting me know when you're available, if there's a specific grade you would like to read to, and then I work out the schedule with the schools, and I put the schedule out to all of my volunteers, let them check it out. You can simply sign up for any time that is convenient for you, or any teacher that you perhaps would like to read in their class, and I set that up. In each one of the schools, there is a library of my personal eye care books, because there are specific books that have to be read. You can't just bring any book with you. They have to be looked at and approved by administration in the schools. So each one of the libraries has approved eye care books. I let you know where those are. You go in. Each grade has specific books for those specific ages, and you choose whichever book you would like to read, whatever topic you would like to read. There are, various different topics. Autism is just one of them, but there's books on, physical disabilities, Down syndrome. There's, a lot of variety there. You read what you're comfortable with, and so you take the book to the class, you read it to the students, and then in the back of each one of the books are sample questions that allow you to start and kind of foster a discussion with the kids after the book reading about the character in the book, about what it's like to feel accepted, and what does that mean to you, and how, if you had a child in the class that was like the character in the book, how would you include them at recess or help them to be part of your classroom? And and the kids interact with you, and they start talking about, they ask questions, and they start talking about how that could happen, or perhaps they've had experiences in the past, and they share those experiences, whether it be in the classroom or in one of their sporting events, or in their Boy Scouts or church, or wherever it is that they may encounter special needs kids. It's a nice discussion about how we all have challenges, but it's really about how we're alike and how we can be friends with each other. That's more important than what we're challenged with.
Mm. And then usually the teacher is in the classroom to help facilitate the discussion.
Almost always the teacher is there to help foster that. The teacher knows their classroom the best, so they're typically there to help field questions and make sure that the questions are appropriate for the discussion that you're having.
Now, if there is another parent who has a special needs child in that class, do you suggest the parent go in and read to that class, or is it better not to have that particular parent?
That is entirely up to that parent. We certainly try to reach out to whomever we can to make sure that the parents know that this is happening, that eye care is something that happens in each one of the classrooms, and I would never want any parent to feel that their child could be uncomfortable in the class. So perhaps, I've had parents who've suggested, could you just read about a different topic? So, something that, say I have a child with autism in that class, I really don't want my child to stand out. Could you please read about something other than autism? And we've certainly accommodated that. That's not a problem at all. I have also offered to have that parent come in, and perhaps we could do a co-reading if they didn't feel comfortable doing it all by themselves. I also offer that to new volunteers. Would you like to be kind of buddied up with a volunteer who's already done this? Would it make you feel more comfortable to co-read? There's all kinds of different ways that we can make the eye care volunteer experience something that everybody is comfortable with.
And as you mentioned, this isn't something that they have to do week after week after week. You know,
It is not. It is a volunteer commitment that can be as easy as one time. A half an hour is allotted for each one of the readings. However, depending on the grade that you read to, sometimes it isn't even that long. You know, if you're going into a preschool classroom, the books are much shorter. Typically, the discussions are much shorter. So you could do a reading at the preschool in 15 or 20 minutes, and that is all the volunteer, you know, expectation. You know, the time for expectation is just that. And in all of the other classes, we're allotted a half an hour. Occasionally it goes over a half an hour, but very rarely. So you can do that one time, or you can do it as many times as you want, depending on your schedule and your free time.
It seems like it would be a very doable thing for somebody who was looking to volunteer in the schools and
Yeah, I think it's
have a real meaningful kind of experience with the kids.
Absolutely. I have so many volunteers who come back year after year because they describe this as such a meaningful experience, something that's kind of unique. You know, many people go in and read books to the children in school, but this is a little bit different. You know, it's not only reading, but it's a little bit of teaching as well. And I have a lot of parents who maybe work full-time and they don't have the time to volunteer in their child's class, but perhaps they work close by and they can take some time off at lunch and come. I have dads who don't always get to volunteer in the classroom, and they've come on their lunch breaks and been able to read to the classes, and they really enjoy it. And the kids love having somebody different come into their class to read. I think it's a way to bring the community into the schools and involve everyone in this, because acceptance is important. It's important in the community, it's important in our schools, it's important in life. So I think it's really a great program to involve the community in something that they wouldn't typically get a chance to do.
And it's gone so well here in Mansfield that it has expanded to other school systems and beyond, correct?
It has. It has. I have expanded it to other communities here in Massachusetts by word of mouth and by an article that happened to be in Parents Magazine a few years ago about my program. I've even had requests as far away as California and the West Coast, and there's other states that have adopted iCare as well.
So it's a tremendous thing because people see the need for it, you know, and to realize we all have so much, how would you say, we all have so much in common.
Yes, absolutely. You know? And that's what we're trying to teach the kids, that they have so much in common with these kids. And it's not always easy to find, because I think the kids are, you know, tentative about what should I say. I don't want to upset the child, you know. So we just have to educate them and let them know that these kids are just like you in so many ways, and the friendship that you could give these kids is so incredibly rewarding. I see it through my own daughter. She blossomed in school. I feel like every time that I went in and talked to the kids about her and helped explain some of her challenges and her differences, the empathy was there. They were so willing and so able to change her course of how she behaved in school and how she was able to adapt to school better. And I really do believe that a good portion of that had to do with the way the children responded to her in her classrooms. And when I gave them a little bit of education, and when the teachers gave them a little bit of education on, you know, what autism was and why, you know, my daughter did some of the things that she did, then they understood and they were like, okay, then that it was no big deal anymore.
The fear of the unknown was taken away.
Absolutely.
And when we have that fear, it can stunt everything that is going on, you know. But now, iCare is a nonprofit, but it takes some funding. So you have figured out a great way of funding it.
Yes, my husband and I started a nonprofit many years ago called the Jamie Fund. And we have a fundraiser, a 5K that we run every year. That's our major fundraiser. But people can donate on our website. And a lot of times other school systems will donate after I present the program, to their school systems. I also apply for grants. So there's all different ways that we can raise money for the Jamie Fund, which in turn funds iCare.
And I think you've expanded too for a couple scholarships for young people who are studying special needs.
Yes, the Jamie Fund provides the money that iCare needs to continue. However, thanks to all of our wonderful donors, we have extra money, and we have been able to provide scholarships to Mansfield seniors who are going into special education, whether it be through teaching or occupational therapy, physical therapy. Special needs kids need lots of help in different ways. So if a Mansfield senior was going to pursue any of those things in college, we provide 2 scholarships a year, and have now for over a decade.
Oh, excellent. So it just keeps giving in many different ways.
Yes, and I've had some of those recipients of our scholarships come back and say that they would now like to do iCare in the classrooms that they're running.
That's great.
It is great.
That must really make you feel good.
Very proud.
Very,
Yes.
oh my. So if somebody was interested in being a volunteer, they get in contact with you.
Yes, and I have a new volunteer meeting every fall for all of my new volunteers so that we can go over what it's like to be a volunteer, if they have any questions, and I make sure that I do that a couple of different times, whether it be during the day or the evening, whenever anybody can come. I make sure that it's available so that everybody can come, learn about it, and put aside any reservations they may have about what it would be like to foster that discussion after the reading.
Oh, excellent. So this, I think you said, is your 10th year, is it?
For iCare,
Oh, it would be longer.
yes, for iCare, it started when Jamie was in first grade.
First grade.
So this is our 13th year?
Wow,
Yes.
excellent.
Yes.
And she certainly is an example of a young person who has truly blossomed because of the love and understanding that she received from her family as well as from her community and classmates. So iCare has made a difference for your daughter, and I'm sure for many other special needs children coming up.
I certainly hope so.
It was so good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next time on The Learning Curve.